All right, so on Saturday when I left Leon, I went down, got the bike out of the garage, and rode up to the cathedral and took a couple of moments and then just headed out of town. The wind was blowing really hard on Saturday. It was a little colder than normal and just a harder bike trip. As the trip carried on, I went to Villamor de Orbigo. I think it was Villamor de Orbigo. There's a really cool stone bridge from the 13th century. It was something I had seen prior to the trip, so I was pretty excited to see it. And then shortly after that, I had an unfortunate incident. The chain came off the bike, got jammed up near the pedals, and it took about 15 minutes to strip the bike down, get all the gear off, flip the bike upside down, and get the chain back in place. So I was also a little concerned because of the significance of the jam. It looked like it might have damaged the chain, and I was worried that the chain would break before the end of the trip, or before the end of the bike trip, but that never happened, thankfully. That night I got into Astorga around noon, but my intent was to continue to move down the road, but I was unable to find accommodations. So I rented a place there in Astorga, and I actually rented an apartment, which was ridiculous. It was €65, but it was 2 bedrooms, a bath and a half, a front room, kitchen, a back area where I put my bike and let it charge, dishwasher, just ridiculous, way overkill for what you need on this trip. So that all worked out, but I wasn't able to get any further. It helped slow me down a little bit. It's one of those days I would have preferred to keep riding, and what it really forced me to do is just kind of slow down and take it easy. So I think it was another one of the life lessons on this trip. Great little town, an amazing cathedral in that town. Restaurants don't typically open till 7 or 8 o'clock, and I didn't want to wait. I finally went up to the information center in town, found a series of restaurants that I could get to, got a bowl of spaghetti, and was able to finish up my night. Went back and just collapsed early. I don't know, I was probably in bed by 8:30 or 9 o'clock. And then on day 16 I started in Astorga, and I hit several towns: Santa Catalina de Somoza, Fontebadon, and then coming out of the mountain it was Molina Seca, and then I ended up in Ponferrada for the night. It was Sunday when I left my residence, and on the way out I actually fell down the stairs and I put my hand through a glass door, and by some miracle I only ended up with a small cut on my left hand. I called the woman that rented the room to me. She came over and took a look at it, and I told them to let me know if there's something I need to do to take care of it. Stopped for a coffee break at Santa Catalina de Somoza, and then again at Fontebadon, and yet another coffee shop and a bike charge. The morning climb was 650 kilometers, over 30 kilometers. So I traveled about 30 kilometers, but made an elevation gain of 650 kilometers. It was steep, but the road and the e-bike made it pretty manageable, and the views are worth the climb. The ride-up reminded me of Trail Ridge Road in Rocky Mountain National Park. The views aren't nearly as epic, but still pretty impressive. Once I got to the bottom of the mountain, found a small town right on the river with some epic views. Sat down at a local restaurant, had a couple glasses of wine and some fried calamari, which wasn't that great, but still, I guess in the story I should probably say it was amazing. From there, about 35-minute ride, got into Ponferrada and crashed out pretty early. And then I got up this morning from Ponferrada and went to Villafranca del Bierzo. Got the bike mailed off, started my third phase, the final 200 kilometers into Santiago. So I'm super happy to be walking again. It's easier in some regards, but you couldn't tell that to your feet. By the end of the day, you're feeling the effects. Last hour is always pretty brutal, but I'm super happy to be walking again and be around people. So that's it. I will check back in tomorrow. I'll add some videos here and some photos of the trip over the past few days. All right, so this is my current situation. Hopefully the chain didn't get damaged to the point it's going to break. I've got to unpack the bike, tip it upside down, and untangle that mess and get it back on the road. So, I'll give you an update in a few minutes, hopefully positive. All right. That was a unplanned opportunity. All right, back on the road. All right, so I got into the city early and was going to go to the next town up, 2 towns up, another, I think, 20 kilometers, but I could not find a place to stay and actually had trouble finding a place here. I was forced to pick an apartment for €65. I just checked in. This place is ridiculous. It's an apartment. I have a living room, a kitchen, an outdoor area where the bike is currently sitting plugged in, 2 bedrooms. This thing's freaking massive. So it's certainly nice. So I'm going to take the day to go back here into town. It's about a 5-minute walk to the center of town. Astorga is the name of the town. It's lovely. It's ancient. So I stopped at the cathedral earlier. So I'm going to go back down where I saw some folks eating and have some lunch. Cheers.
process with the bicycle is when you get to a spot where you're prepared to return it, you have to disassemble the bike, and they send you with the tools necessary to disassemble the bike. You go to a post office, they've got a special box, and you send it back. The problem is, either I lost it or the gentleman who rented me the bike didn't give me the wrench needed to take the pedals off. So, just another small challenge to overcome. The man at the Postal Service called the local hardware store, who was waiting for me, and had this. So I needed a 15 millimeter wrench. He got it. Can I go this way? I think no. So now I have my 15 millimeter wrench. I'm walking back to the Postal Service, and I'll take the pedals off. So, small delay, but a pretty small problem in the big scheme of things. All right, the bike is completely disassembled back in the box and on its way to its owner, and I am so happy to be walking again. So it's just got a different pace. If you want to bike the Camino, by all means do it, but it is a different vibe. You're not as connected. For me, it just didn't feel as connected to the trail or the people on the Camino. You'd meet up at night, but it was a different group of people, usually every night. Occasionally I'd run into people, but those were bikers, and they were few and far between. So super excited to be back off the bike and back on the trail. We're going to see how much I can cover in a day. I've only planned for about 20 kilometers, roughly anywhere from 13 to 15 miles a day. So I'm not going to push. I'm just going to go at a pace. I now have time, so I should be able to do this without any injuries, knock on wood. And super excited. The weather's awesome. There's a few mountains in front of me, which means I get to go over those. So part of the journey. See ya.